All right, I want to call to order the tax levy hearing for Murphysboro Community Unit District 186. And Mrs. Hines, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bain?
Here.
Mr. Beavers?
Here.
Mrs. Brazel?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mrs. Evaldi?
Here.
Mr. Rungy?
Here. The next item is the reason we are here is the tax levy review. Mrs. Bush, I will turn it over to you for.
So the tax levy, preliminary levy has been on file or was approved by the board at the November 15th meeting, setting the preliminary levy, and I haven't had any questions or comments since then. So I put together just a really short PowerPoint since we haven't had a hearing since 2017, and I think you all got an email copy of that presentation. So we're gonna kind of fly through it. I'm gonna stand over here a little bit so we can see. Okay, so just some key points. Jackson County is tax cap, so property tax extension limitation law, we fall under that, and that increases in property taxes each year that we levy are the lesser of 5% or the consumer price index or CPI of the preceding year of the levy year. So we're actually looking at 2021's CPI that we're limited to. We also get additional amount of new property that's assessed for the first time included, if we capture that. The cap is on the total money received by the district, but the PTEL doesn't cap individual property tax bills or individual property tax assessments. And this is the first time since PTEL was enacted in, I think, 1990, that the 5% ceiling has been reached. So what we know is what our prior year extension, so what we received in last year's 2021 levy, not including debt service, which right now we don't have any debt service with the taxpayers because we're using county facility sales tax to pay for the bonds that we have outstanding. We also know the CPI, and that's from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And then unknown variables, what the EAV is going to be, the equalized assessed valuation for our district or and the county, and what that new property really is. So this is why we balloon the levy. This is why we assess more, because we don't know what those numbers are going to be. The consumer price index is the primary driver of those increases. And this year for 22, that was based on 21, it's 7%. So that's the highest we've seen since the tax cap was enacted. So you can see, the average in 20 was 1.8%, 21 2.2%. So this is kind of an unprecedented thing. Just kind of this was in your packet, just kind of a review of what the CPI has looked like and where it is at 7% since 1990. So the tax levy, the balloon, our ask, we're asking for a 9.19% increase in taxes. That's not what we're going to receive. Our extension, or what we will receive, or what we expect to receive, I'm anticipating around 5.8%. So that's the 5% max that we get from PTEL, not 7, but the 5, and then trying to capture that new property. And the bottom line is, if we don't capture that new property now, or this 5% in assessment, it's gone. We can't go back and ask for it later. If we don't capture that now, we can't get it again. So this is just an estimate. The levy that I showed you last month, the estimate, the 9.1 with all the funds, that's the balloon, what we've estimated, and what we project, 8.5 million. I don't know that we're going to see that. Could be a little bit more, but that's my best guess estimate of what it might look like for us. And this is kind of just a change, a history of what our extension, what we've received has looked like over the years, what our levy is now, that 7% CPI, and then that 5.82% extension. And then for this, just a little history, where we've been over the 18, 3, 7.6, and 19. 20 was a year where we didn't abate that year. So that $481,000, that was from our 2009 bonds that was included in our taxes. So it increased our tax rate that year. Last year we were at 8.1. This recapture, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, why we got that. but then this just shows our history, what we are asking for and what we think we're going to get. So what's new? I just talked about that 51,000 that we received this summer from last year's taxes. So this has to do with in tax cap districts, property tax assessment appeal refunds. So, you know, money that we're getting back based on those appeals, circuit court orders, and certificates of error. Those are big monies that happen in the suburban, you know, Cook County and the suburban counties. For us, it's a lot less. That amount gets certified by the treasurer and just gets added to our extension. I don't ask for that. I don't know what that's going to be. And it's considered non-cap funds. We can spend it anywhere. I spend it in the education fund, put it in the education fund this year, that 51,187. And this is also something new that we're required as part of our tax levy process to disclose our cash reserve balances or our fund balances. And so this is just a list of all of our funds, all of our balances. So at the end of June 30th, 13.1 million is where we're sitting. Keep in mind in the ed fund, it's a little healthier than it normally is, but that's the ESSER dollars that we've received, and we've saved some of our other state and local funds that we will be spending down over the next few years. So just a few things. Tax cap's doing what it intended to do. As inflation, CPI goes up, it's limiting what we can levy. Prior years, we were able to capture the entire CPI. This year, we can't. Since it's 5% and the CPI is at 7, we only get 5. 5% still a lot. That's still a bigger increase than we've seen in a lot of years. But the last few things that I put on this slide, considering you know, our salary and benefit increases, minimum wage has impacted that dramatically, our contractual bargaining agreements. And so, you know, in wages, we're in a better place than we were before, which is great for our district. But, you know, those property taxes do help pay for those and offset those. And just like all of our own households have been impacted by inflation, we have too. I mean, we've seen that everywhere. The transportation contract that we signed for this year, you know, we've had tremendous increases there. Our food costs, our paper costs, you know, insurance, all of those things are much higher and here, just like they are for you at home. So I think that's the last thing. So questions, comments?
Any questions from the board?
Are we, now the tax caps are taxing bodies as a whole, right? Not just us? Not just school districts, I mean, everybody, like county board and,
I would assume so.
I mean, the tax cap
Retail.
law is what I'm saying, it's
Yeah.
for taxing bodies, okay. That's what I'm checking.
I would assume so.
Just to put a little perspective, what is our monthly payroll?
I'm trying to think. At one point, and it's been a few years ago, it was over $1 million. I don't know the exact. I'd have to look at a report. Hang on. Let me pull. I can tell you where we are 6 months or 5 months in on salaries, and we can go from there. Look at my salary. So for 5 months, the first 5 months of the year, we spent $6.6 million on salary and benefits.
So but roughly 1.1 million.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that-
actually, yeah, because it's for 5 months, so. Yeah.
So that reserve that you're showing for the education fund is roughly 4.5 months payroll.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
So Janice, assuming that a property owner's assessed evaluation would be the same,
Mhm.
and the assessor didn't adjust the market value of the house, they go through the calculation assuming that there's no adjustment related to any property evaluation, equalization,
Right.
anything like that. The most a homeowner would have would be a 5% increase. Is that pretty much what you're saying?
Yeah, a little bit, maybe a little bit over that with the new property. And, let's see where I put that sheet. So, you know, every year I kind of run estimates based on EAV that we estimated. and what that property tax limit would be if they didn't, bust us back. A house that was worth $120,000 would see about $82 in
Okay.
increase in a year. But that's assuming that we get the whole 9.1 million, which we won't. So that's kind of give you a little idea of what that might look like. And that's the value of the house, then they take a third of that to calculate your bill. So the 120,000 isn't the third, it's the full value.
Anyone else? If not, then I will open it up to anyone in the audience that might have a particular question only pertaining to the tax levy and the information that you were just given. And as I see quite a few students, we talk about some real dollars here. It's a lot of money. Any questions? Feel free. If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, motion carries.